Calling the House into order. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. You people didn't have breakfast? Okay, so we'll go straight into the panel sessions. And we invite everyone to pay attention to these discussions. They are very important because the experts that we are bringing on board are experts who have been working in these areas that form the pillar of climate change for more than a decade. And please, if you have questions to ask later on at the end of our panel discussion, please jot down your questions and be ready to ask. So we will start with the first panel, which is a panel coined in collaboration with IDRISI. This is the IGAD Drought Disaster Resilience Initiative. IDRISI right now is about 12 years old as an IGAD project, a very strategic project that has seen over 1.7 billion US dollars in terms of investments across the IGAD region and impacted about 30 million people in the IGAD region. This is almost the size of a whole country. These are direct beneficiaries of the IDRISI as an initiative. So please, ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming the first panelists from who will be discussing this 12-year journey by IGAD. I will call on stage Dr. Kebayo, Dr. John Kabayo. Dr. John Kabayo is a former IGAD staff and head of IDRISI. Dr. John Kabayo, please join us. Round of applause for Dr. John Kabayo. Joining him is Mr. Jamal Ali. Mr. Jamal Ali is the BREFON's National Coordinator. BREFON's National Coordinator. Mr. Jamal Ali, please join. Thank you. The next person to join us is somebody who worked with IDRISI very well in some of the projects that were implementing the IDRISI program as a whole. Dr. Dereje Wakijira, Director of IGAD Center for Pastoral Areas and Livestock Development, based in Nairobi. Last but not least, we have Mr. Zelalem Yibetal, journalist at Pulse of Africa. Mr. Yibetal, please join us. and I'll be your ad hoc moderator. A round of applause for me. So you'll forgive me. I just learned that I'll be the moderator this morning. So we will just go ahead and jump straight to it. So I'll give you a quick background about the panel, and I'll read it as it is written here. The IGAD region continues to face recurrent droughts that threaten livelihoods, food security, and social stability. Cyclical droughts events, often exacerbated by climate change, land degradation, and conflict, have led to widespread humanitarian crisis, displacement, and economic losses. In response, IGAD established the IGAD Drought Disaster and Sustainability Initiative, IDRISI, in 2012 to shift the regional approach from reactive crisis management to proactive resilience building. Over the past 12 years, IDRISI has mobilized an investments of more than 1.7 billion US dollars, directly impacting over 30 million people across the IGAD region. Through community-based programs, infrastructure development, and institutional capacity building. IDRISI serves as a regional framework for coordinated action among IGAD member states and development partners, promoting early warning systems, cross-border collaboration, sustainable natural resource management, and long-term resilience. By integrating humanitarian and development efforts, the initiative continues to demonstrate how collective regional action can transform vulnerability into strength and ensure that communities are better prepared to withstand climate shocks. This panel will bring together policymakers, researchers, and journalists, and member states to explore how drought resilience can be strengthened through innovation, partnerships, and effective communication. It will highlight how media and storytelling can amplify the lessons and success of resilience building programs to drive behavioral change, influence policy, and inspire collective action. So first, I'll dive into the panel questions. To start with, I'll start with you, Dr. John Caballo. How has IDRISI transformed drought response mechanism into proactive resilience systems across the IGAD region?
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. IDRISI, as you may know by now, is the IGAD Drought Disaster Resilience and Sustainability Initiative. This initiative arose from a collective decision, I should say, to do something about the recurrent droughts that ravaged the region at that time. And it was made necessary by the urgent need to do something and do it differently about the ravages of our ecological circumstances as they affected that region. At that time, countries waited until the droughts struck and then they acted. In other words, they acted reactively. And they addressed drought with the humanitarian interventions. And countries usually worked alone, and even the actors in those countries, whether they are NGOs or government bodies, they acted on their own, individually. But IDRISI came in and prescribed new ways of doing things. And this required us to act proactively. In other words, to anticipate, to learn to manage the risk rather than manage the emergencies. And taught us to invest in development in such a way that will reduce the necessity for humanitarian interventions. It also taught us to work together as a region. Up to that time, as I said, we worked as individual countries, but with IDRISI, all the 7 IGAD member states learned to work together because the ecological circumstances affect all of us equally, and most of the problems we share, and so it was prudent that we should work together. Now, IDRISI was really an idea that came on its time, and we see it as a medicine that we have now known that was prescribed against a disease that become actually very effective as a cure. And somebody says it's a disease, it's a cure, a dose which we cannot have an overdose of because it's a necessary cure. And we have shown in the last 12 years that actually the prescriptions that we made for IDRISI actually work and make changes. There are many projects that have been undertaken within the framework of IDRISI following the strategy of building resilience. Resilience really is a capacity to withstand adverse change and grow. Droughts will come, they are natural phenomena, they cannot be stopped, but when they do strike, how should we behave? First of all, we should not wait until they come. We know now they are a constant feature in this region. Droughts used to happen every 10 years or so, but now there are places in this region where we prepare for. We should no longer wait for it to happen before they act. So IDRISI taught us to act proactively, to learn to manage the risk rather than managing the emergencies. It's much cheaper. The new way of doing things now is to prepare before the actual disaster comes and do something about it, and then to invest in development in such a way that you stop the need for humanitarian interventions. If, for example, there was drought, instead of tracking water to areas that need water, invest in water development in such a way that you cure the necessity for water when drought comes. So we've learned now to invest in development rather than in dispensing with humanitarian interventions. I don't know whether that answers your question, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you very much, Dr. John Kabayo, for that comprehensive explanation. Mr. Jamal Ali, Dr. John Kabayo talks about preparedness, and he speaks with a lot of confidence that droughts will recur. What are some of the community level initiatives that, or community level lessons that have been learned that can be scaled regionally?
Thank you very much for the opportunity. As a ground level practitioner, I can tell you about IDRISI in Ethiopia, what we have been achieved in Ethiopia. In Ethiopia, IDRISI is working in 5 regions: Afar, Somali, parts of Oromia, South Ethiopia, and Southwest Ethiopian. So in these regions, as you know, the regions are located in the lowlands of Ethiopia, which is naturally dry area. Using IDRISI, we start from developing water resource in those areas. When we are starting on implementation of water resource development, the first thing we have done in that area is just mapping the existing water schemes. The existing water schemes are mapped because the community were using some source of water. So we start from rehabilitating those existing water schemes. Then we identify the resource in the area. As everybody knows, the areas were marginalized as compared to the central part of Ethiopia and the highland part of Ethiopia. So that identification of the resource in that area was the paramount important to that area. We have identified the resource of water. In some areas, there is abundant underground water resource. In some area, there is no underground water resource. So accordingly, we harvest surface water in some areas. We harvest water from rivers. And that was the primary objective of Idrisi in Ethiopia was, we have, Idrisi, as we know, has 7 pillars. Ethiopia is working in the first 3 or 4. The first one was natural resource management. And the natural resource management, water is the key. And the share budget, which was played at that time, was given to natural resource management. Water development is one. And in the first phase of drought resilience and sustainability initiative, which was known in Ethiopia as DRSLP, drought resilience and sustainable management. In that case, we have developed 59 boreholes, which is maybe very very great achievement. But it's not only the RSLP which is functioning in that area now. In the areas, there are huge investment by the government, by different donors like RPLRP, which was funded by World Bank, SDR, which was funded by KfW, and even LLRP, which is even bigger than all the projects. Now the investment in the area is very huge, but the interest in the area for the investment is yet there is a gap to be filled. In the area, what we have learned was the community, it was open grazing area. Now on the rangeland management issue, we practiced both rain-fed fodder production, rangeland management, rain-fed fodder production and irrigated fodder production. The irrigated fodder production was started in Afar, particularly in the area of Ataye River. We have started in that area, and we have taken that practice to southern Ethiopia, which is now probably considered to be the largest area in irrigated fodder production. It's not, the practice was not limited to only irrigated fodder production. It was, in Oromia area, in Borana, in the Guji area, the waters are running in the gorge. So there is no irrigated fodder production. There is no accessibility for irrigated fodder production. So that rain-fed fodder production was an example in IGAD regions. In those areas, we closed the rangeland, cleared the bush and the invasive weeds, and we developed rain-fed fodder in that area. It's not only, the practice in Ethiopia is not only that one. It's not only developing the rangeland, the pasture. It's only the way of preservation was done very well. We have different big stores in these different regions, in all regions, to preserve feed for drought scenario. In drought scenario, which was in previously, the way we are using in Ethiopia was to transport the hay from highland to the lowland, but now the practice is changed already. The lowlanders can at least are said to be self-sufficient now for their, if there is a problem in some areas, we can transport from one warada to the other, or from one lowland region to the other lowland region. It's not, I think, it's not yet necessary to transport it from the highland, unless otherwise maybe the magnitude is by far larger. So the high investment, but there is also another lessons learned from the community in that area. Especially what we have learned from the community was how to use the water points, the water point management. Like in Borana area, there is an ELA system. ELA is the water point they used to use traditionally. And the way they manage was something to be scaled up for sustainability of the project. And the other one is the CALO system, which is already the Kalu system is or also in Borana area. The traditional way of managing grazing land is managing the range, the range. In that area, in this area of pastoral and agro-pastoral parts of Ethiopia, they have two grazing lands, like traditionally, wet season grazing, two season grazing land, wet season grazing land, and dry season grazing land. In that, they manage to preserve their pasture for dry season. And there is a criteria by which they select wet season grazing land and dry season grazing land. I think that has to be taken into consideration, even to be scaled up in the East Africa. And the rain-fed, which was, Mr. Kabayo may remember, that Ethiopia was an exemplary in using rain-fed pasture from the lowland area, directly from that lowland area, simply by inducing some very minimal resources. So this is what I want to share. I don't know if I fully answered your question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Jamal Ali, on the clear success projects that Ethiopia has led in rangeland and natural resource management. Next is Dr. Dereje. How can accurate climate information and early warning systems be effectively integrated into national policies and local decision making?
Thank you very much, Austin. My two colleagues have provided a elaborate example based on their experience. There's the two who have been acting both at a regional level as well as also national level. Let me take you back a little bit because we have to very much contextualize in terms of geographies that we are talking, in terms of also communities that we are talking today. We are talking about drought resilience in the Horn of Africa. Because of the nature, we have a region called ASALs, arid and semi-arid land, or it's called lowland in Ethiopia. It has different name. But centrally, that's the dry land of Horn of Africa, which covers 70% of the land, where rainfall is naturally lower, not so conducive for crop farming. And it's an opportunistic business, and livelihood is largely on livestock. What I wanted to emphasize here is also, this is the area that is unfortunately highly affected by climate change. We see a very much climate variability in that area. Heat is higher as compared to the average. The rainfall pattern is continuously shifting. So that's the area that we are talking. In that context, what do people do? Let's focus on livestock. They rear animal in extensive system where they move from place to place based on season to access forage and water, because sedentary life is not that appreciated. They also do opportunistic crop farming. When the rain allow, depending on the context, they also farm. And both need anticipation, both need planning based on the availability of information on climate and the weather, because it's affected accordingly. On that aspect, I can highlight few issues, how decision and getting information about climate helps them. For example, if the dry season is longer, if they are rearing animal, they might take some of their animal to market and sell them so that they keep money or use that money for another purpose. If they know that the coming 2 seasons are better, they could also buy 2, 3 goats, 4 goats into their herd so that they opportunistically get sufficient income from what they are doing as a business. If the rainfall is so high, it might trigger some animal disease like Rift Valley fever. If that information reaches, they could do vaccination, they could do other treatments or request the support of veterinarian. In agriculture, it's similar. There, naturally, it's a very low rainfall area, means if the rain is not that good, they will select which crop they will plant. If the rain is so down, maybe they go for millet, which can produce in very low rainfall situation. If it is better, they can go for like corn. So income from that business will be varied. That's how they are daily affected in terms of climate information. What do we have in the region? What do we have at the country level? The source of information about the status of climate is one. In the region is IGAD Climate Prediction and Application Center called ICPAC, which provides prediction of 3 months, 2 months, 1 month at a regional scale, which is very much granular. And that will give how the climate look like, and that advisory has to reach the consumer. Below that is also that a lot of capacity building at the national level. National METs will cascade. You can imagine what you get at regional level is so granular, and that information has to be a little bit contextualized at the national level. There's a continuous capacity building by ICPAC and other actors for the national METs, and some of our national METs are really capable to provide that information. So, 2 issues that have I raised. There is an unprecedented climate change. There is information. So how there are people that need to decide on their daily life. So how will that information reach to the people? And that's where communication comes. And in communication, the climate people give you information, but the sectorals should interpret and provide advice. The animal disease situation, the feed situation, the crop situation, there are technical people who can interpret and provide advice. Now from that is the communication people will take and give that information to the ultimate users. So the journey is very long, but what are the barriers now? There are barriers in terms of coverage. There are barriers in terms of language. There are barriers in terms of trust. There are barriers also. You can see how the information is working. It might misinterpret at certain points. And these are the things that we need to improve, because climate information in this era is key for your livelihood, for your life, for your economy. I think that's what I want to say. Thank you, moderator.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dereje. And a round of applause for that comprehensive background on the ASAL areas in the region. Dr. Dereje poses a question to the communication efforts in the region to interpret this data. So I'll move straight to you to respond to this. Mr. Zelalem, how can communication and storytelling bridge the gap between technical data and public understanding to influence attitudes and policy action?
All right, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Moderator, for that brief introduction of myself. And I want to say a few words about the organization and the media I represent. So I'm a journalist at Pulse of Africa, POA. So Pulse of Africa is a Pan-African media organization, a continental media organization established here in Addis Ababa in Ethiopia. And the major objective of Pulse of Africa is to voice the voice of Africa, to amplify the concerns of Africa, the challenges and prospects of Africa. And thank you. Coming to your question, media can play indispensable role in serving as a bridge between technical data and the public understanding. So there is a data on one side, data maybe from policymakers, from government officials, from researchers, from scientists, and there are people, there are communities obviously thirsty, hungered of information and data. So media can serve as a bridge between the two. Media can serve to connect the community to the data, to the information. So the role of media in climate resilience activity, in climate resilience effort, can never be overestimated. So the media has demonstrated its relevance, its role in climate mitigation activities. Media, for example, in IGAD member states, media in Ethiopia, media in Kenya, Somalia, South Sudan, Djibouti, and Uganda and other member states of IGAD are, making great effort to make sure that the people are aware of the impact of climate change. For example, if you assess the state of media in Ethiopia, Ethiopia media, all platforms, radio, television, newspaper, and digital media as well, are, awareing the community, awareing and educating, teaching the people about the impact of climate change and the outcome of Ethiopia media advocacy on climate change and the impact of climate disaster is immense. For example, Ethiopia, like you heard in the morning from State Minister of Development and Planning, His Excellency Siyum Makonnen, Ethiopia has been able to plant, for example, more than 48 billion trees over the past 7 years. And that is the result of the media campaign. Ethiopia media, from community radio to state media, big state media organizations, television stations and radio stations, are very much devoted to climate change impacts and resilience activities. Media in other countries of IGAD, for example, in Kenya, media, radio and digital media have played an important role in flood risks. The media in Kenya through security alerts, through disseminating information related with flood alerts and other information, are able to aware the people of Kenya to mitigate the impact of flooding. So the media in all member states of IGAD, the media, for example, in South Sudan. In South Sudan, the media has assisted the people of South Sudan to come to peace through by serving as a platform, as a forum for discussion. The media in South Sudan, the popular media, of course, in South Sudan is radio. The radio, has tried to be voice for different political groups in South Sudan, and that has helped to bring peace in Sudan. Because it all starts with peace. Without peace, we cannot talk about anything. So media in South Sudan has played immense role in bringing peace and sustainable peace in the country. So the role of media in IGAD member states is huge, and the role of media in connecting the people with information is huge. For example, showcasing the stories of communities who have showed resilience, who have demonstrated resilience in the face of climate change, climate disaster adversities like drought, flooding, desertification, and other climate-induced challenge, can be a role model, can serve as a powerful role model for communities, showcasing the stories of the communities that have successfully embraced innovation, new media technology, can motivate, can inspire millions of people in the region to do the same. So the role of the media in climate resilience activity is huge, but obviously there are problems and there are challenges and limitations to the media's role in climate resilience activity. And one of the limitations here is, the media is very much focused in disaster at the happen. That shows that the media are reactive than being proactive. So the media need to be proactive. For example, whenever there is flooding or whenever there is a drought, the media from regional to international media organizations may go to the field and may report about that immediate disaster or aftermath of that immediate disaster, but they don't continuously and consistently report about those climate-induced challenges. So there are limitations, but we have witnessed that media in IGAD member states are playing their indispensable role in climate resilience efforts. And thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, Mr. Zelale, before you give away your microphone, you've clearly stated the role of the media in climate resilience. What are some of the opportunities missed, or what are some of the exact challenges, and how can we overcome them? For example, are there capacity building challenges in the region? Are there funding challenges? Because in the room, I understand today we have people from the Climate Prediction Center. We also have key decision makers in the room. So I think perhaps airing these concerns would provide a platform for us to openly discuss and see and try find opportunities to support the media in playing this huge role, as you've already explained. So what are some of the opportunities and challenges, then how can we overcome the challenges?
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for that beautiful question. I mean, media has obviously faced great challenge in terms of covering stories of climate change. As a media, we are grappling with enormous challenge. And one of the challenges, of course, knowledge and skill in covering those stories. For example, as a journalist, we are very much exposed to the stories of economy. Hello? 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me? Yes, like I said, the media is grappling with numerous challenges in terms of covering stories of climate change and climate change disasters. The media are exposed to, for example, stories of politics, stories of current affairs, stories of business and economies. But we do have a lack of information and lack of knowledge in terms of climate. Our knowledge towards climate is very much limited. So we need to have a knowledge, we need to have abundant and necessary knowledge that help us to cover the stories of climate change in a very professional manner, in a knowledge-based manner. And that's the first limitation. And the other limitation is, of course, related with finance. The media industry needs a huge finance to move around and to capture stories of climate change, to capture success stories of climate mitigation activities, and to go and to report the disaster that follows the climate change problem. So we need finance. So finance is the other problem. So there are enormous problems, but there are opportunities as well. And the opportunities are basically from the new media technology, and now mobile platforms, social media platforms, and artificial intelligence by itself offered a huge opportunity for media professionals. For example, by utilizing artificial intelligence, we can predict the weather of the next week. So if we can spread and if we can disseminate information about the weather for farmers, and farmers can obviously use that information to adjust their farming system according to the weather system. For example, if the weather of the next week is rainy, and if we disseminate that information, and the farmers can use that information, for example, maybe to harvest the crop before it's devastated by flooding. So there are opportunities and there are challenges, and the media professionals need to discharge our responsibilities, I would say. And the Horn of Africa and the Greater Eastern Africa is very much prone to climate-induced problems. And we have already seen the recurrent droughts that affected countries of IGAD like Ethiopia, Somalia, Kenya, and other countries of IGAD. And we have also seen how drought affected millions of people in South Sudan. Africa is very much exposed to climate-induced problems, and we need to pay attention to such kinds of problems of the society, and we need to help the society to mitigate to such climate change problems. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Dr. Dereje, just to come back to you real quick. Currently, the global financing landscape is shrinking. what innovative financing and partnership models have proven to be effective in sustaining drought resilience across IGAD member states?
Thank you, Austin, for that question. I just want to a little bit again elaborate from the discussion we had, that from what we have been discussing, drought resilience is not about building a water dam and leave it like that. It has a lot of interconnected issues. You have seen how information is powerful for people to act at the ground level. In terms of financing, what is this financing? It is preparing yourself for the event of drought so that you absorb the shock. And that requires action at every level. Start from the communities themselves, get that information, do your bit so that you try to address the challenge that is coming in selection of breed, in selling your animal on time, in restocking your animal on time, in preparing your animal for dry season. If you have an animal that is sick, that is very weak, you cannot take it through the dry season. You have to do the veterinary necessary things, that vaccination and treatment and deworming and prepare. So there is an action that you have to do at a grassroots level, and you can't undermine. If you add up all that together, it's a millions. The other level is government. Now, as a government, we do development. But we also do in the lens of climate change, so that the infrastructure we are building is looking at how climate change will affect it, how this infrastructure supports community in case of extreme climate. And that government is coming and investing from taxpayers' money directly from the main regular funding, or they go to financing from the big banks. And I can give you an example. Some of the countries in this region boldly taken action, like Ethiopia, Kenya, huge investment in terms of drought resilience. Reason being, the area is so broad, so big, it has been marginalized for long, and it needs continuous such investment. The third level is, I can just generalize as global funding that come from either bilateral, from developing countries, developed countries, or also climate financing. But each of these has a different level of contribution. We need, if we to be successful, we need climate information that needs investment. We need infrastructure, supportive policy to respond and support drought resilience. We need also equally the information to reach the last mile. That is also an investment by itself and require resource. It is not only building infrastructure, but preparing, because the huge investment is done by communities themselves, and we shouldn't undermine that. And the private sector, how the private sector, when drought happens, we often transport feed from hundreds of kilometers, which is not economical. Can we support our private sector so that they position production of animal feed in that area so that it is accessible? Is that possible to position private sector? Take animal from market. When people are desperate and sell, there is no buyer. We need to have a mechanism by which a private sector can buy those animals, finish, and avail on market. There are a lot of areas where private sector, just by doing their own business, can support. So in general, what I wanted to say is, it is not like one narrow area that we need to focus. We need to focus on broader areas to address this complex problem. Yes, at a global level, the funding is getting narrow, not getting narrow, complex and complex. but we will never lose hope. There are also other hopes, like the UNCCD, United Nations Convention on Climate Change and Desertification, have now focused on drought resilience in the coming years. There are resources that are there. Accessing it's another issue. But given this is one of the regions that's highly affected by climate, given that this is a region that insignificantly contributing to climate change, we keep advocates a resource to come to this region, but without sitting and waiting. There is a requirement, double effort from the communities themselves and the government and the private sector in this region. Because, you know, if you are an exporter of live animal or meat, if you do your business and respond to the climate information and support off-taking, you have contributed to drought resilience. So that's, it's a broader issue that we need to consider. It's not like a narrow, we look for resource for infrastructure investment. The catchment is broader. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dereje, for that explanation. Now, on to the last question, and this goes to all the panelists. How can the IGAD region collectively build on the lessons of Idrisi to create a future where resilience is not just a response, but a way of life? And I'll start with Dr. John Kabaya.
Thank you very much, one moderator. The lessons from Idrisi are many. But one particular aspect of Idrisi that I believe is an important lesson is acting as a region, not acting as individual countries. We've seen the beauty, the merits, the advantage of existing as a region, from sharing examples and lessons, and also from accessing funds such as the regional window funds that are available in many banks, which are not available if you approach those as individual countries. But also existing in a region where there's a lot to learn. I take, for example, the inspiring example of the Great Renaissance Dam by the Ethiopians. This example is a major example in the region. First of all, telling us how funding can be organized. I'm aware that the government looked for funds all over the world and it was not possible, so they reverted to their own population, and that's how successful it was. So those types of inspiring examples are available to us to study as a region and to work together as a region. In other words, salvation is not from abroad, but from within us. And the more connected and united we are, the more resilient we will be. The other example that we can learn from Idrisi is really the strategy, the way it was designed and the way it has been implemented. We brought together the experts in this region to study our ecological circumstances and study proposals on what can make our region improve. We realize that this region is not the only one that suffers from drought in the whole world, and yet we seem to be the most vulnerable. And our experts designed a strategy, Idrisi's strategy, which is now being implemented. After it was designed as a region, it was taken to countries, and countries then designed their own method of how to implement the regional strategy by designing what we call country programming papers. The country programming papers are the country's own reflections on how they are going to meet the objectives decided as a region and move forward. I'm aware that if a decision is made as a region, it becomes more compelling to the individual countries. So it's a good example to work from after a collective decision has been made. We also have another paper called the Regional Programming Paper, which is a collection of activities that cannot be done by individual countries alone, but need to be worked as a region. For example, policies that need to be passed concerning diseases or cross-border areas that can't be developed by individual countries and so on. So these types of gaps were there in our history, and were not. Many cross-border areas remained undeveloped because individual countries didn't know how to develop shared areas. And it's actually with the advent of Idrisi that proposals arose which required a regional approach and clearly a study from Idrisi. So those are the few examples I give my colleagues that we have.
Thank you. Mr. Jamal, how can the IGAD region collectively build on the lessons of Idrisi to create a future where resilience is not just a response to drought, but a way of life?
Thank you again. The motto of Idrisi was think regionally and act locally. We need to think regionally because the problem is regional projects. It's not belongs to the individual countries. Idrisi as a regional initiative bring the neighboring countries together. This is not without case. The idea is that these people in the neighboring countries shares not only the social norms, religion and culture, they also share resources. Because the boundary we made is political boundary only. But the pastoralists, as we know, the pastoralists, they didn't know that political boundary. They are crossing whenever there is resources in the other country. So that we need to act together. These sharing resources, they used to cross boundaries, those political boundaries, for searching in resources. This is also a source of conflict if we are not working together. Say, for example, if Ethiopia have developed some dam around the border of the neighboring country, if Somali doesn't have the water resource in their area, they cross the border, and that is also a source of conflict. So at least I think the idea was to think regionally and to act locally. Everybody has to act for himself. The other thing is, using the Idrisi platform, the countries are coming together and discuss together. They share experience from country to country. In recent months, before 2 months, we had a visitors, guests from 7 IGAD countries to Ethiopia. We see locally, we didn't appreciate our culture, but they have appreciated a lot because there are different new structures that they didn't know in their country. They have taken design, BOQ, we have given them to the extent of sharing our BOQ to those countries. They appreciate the way we are reserving water, underground water storage structures, which is familiar in Afar area, and now familiar in all lowland areas of Ethiopia. The cistern we have constructed, they were appreciating those structures. Everything, probably the smartness of any initiative on the ground is its replicability. When we are starting Idrisi, we were not imagining that this is replicated in all activities. We share from one region to the other region, is shared all over across the lowlands of Ethiopia. And even by creating the platform for all countries, we are coming together, discussing on the implementation issue. It's not on the implementation issue, a detail to the activity issue. So we are learning different lessons from different countries. So in that case, I think the existence of the platform Idrisi is helpful to uniformly grow, because if the country grow alone, that could be, as I have said, that could be a source of conflict. So in that case, people now has taken the issue. It's not the way of drought resistant is at the way of life. As I have told you, the rangeland system, which was practiced in Borona area, the Kalo system, was taken from that community and implemented across Ethiopian lowlands. By now, it has taken with IGAD member countries. There are many uptakes that has taken from Ethiopia to the others, and the same is we have done the same. We have visited Kenya, and we have taken some new experience that we are not experiencing in Ethiopia, bring it to our country and implement it here, so that working together, having at least that psychology of working together is very important for regional stability. That's what I think of Idrisi. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Dereje?
Thank you, Austin. I think my colleagues have exhausted. I don't want to repeat what they have said. I wanted to highlight one issue, what we can get inspiration from Idrisi. Working together as a region, you know, when we bring these experts and high-level officials from the region on this topic, there was really self-reinforcing, learning from each other, also putting each other climate change in this region. We hit in a different ways. As we sit now, northeastern Somalia, eastern part of Ethiopia are affected by drought. If you go to Uganda and some part of western Kenya, is another that has to go through trade. We really need to look at easing trade across the region, so that's also one way of preparing ourselves, and that we are not looking somewhere else. I just want to add this one. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Mr. Zalala?
All right, thank you. Let me briefly address this one. Much has been said in this regard. I want to emphasize on the necessity of cooperation and collaboration between and among countries of IGAD. Cooperation is very vital for the region. I mean, the destiny of countries of Eastern Africa is the same. For example, a few years ago, there was a kind of locust outbreak, and that outbreak started somewhere, and it eventually spread to different countries of Eastern Africa, such as Ethiopia, Somalia, Kenya, and other countries of the region. We need to cooperate, and that's not for the sake of collaboration, for the sake of the word, but that's very much imperative. Our destiny is the same. Collaboration and cooperation is very vital, and cooperation is also vital for stakeholders like researchers, policymakers, governmental and non-governmental organization, development partners, and so on. They need to work together, and media should serve as a forum, a platform by which different stakeholders work on. Media should serve as a forum where, for example, researchers disseminate their findings to the public. Media should serve as a platform and a forum where by policymakers and officials disseminate information. Media should serve as a forum by which communities share their best experiences. I want to emphasize on the imperatives and the necessities of working together. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much. A round of applause to the panelists. So for the next 15 minutes or 5 minutes, we will open this session for questions and answers. If you have any question, please raise your hand. Ashes, if you could please help us pass the mic around.
Firstly, thank you so much for a rich but extremely crucial discussion. And my question is, with COP30 coming to a close just last week, and looking ahead at COP31 in Turkey, and the one we're all excited about, COP32 here in Ethiopia, there's a big drive towards action and local solutions that can scale. So my question is, how is Idrisi working to create structures which keep its member countries accountable to action, but also to be able to share these scalable local solutions, not just within the country, but across this network of Idrisi? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have another question? Yes. Please start with your name and where you're from, and your role as well.
I am Wambi Michael. I'm a journalist from Uganda. I thank the panelists. Listening from them, you would wish to see that we don't have any of our peoples dying of famine or their cattle dying of drought. The technologies seem to be there. But why is it that these technologies are not reaching the actual person, the last minute person? From my experience, yes, we have all these technologies. But when you go down there, when you see somebody losing his sheep, you feel like, okay, why would this sheep die in this era and age? And indeed, IGPAC has done very good work in terms of climate prediction. And some of this information actually comes down. But when it reaches the med services, then you begin having problems. The med services don't have money to translate this information down to the actionable points. Maybe speaking from Uganda, the med service has just been downgraded from a bigger position to a lower position. And that shows how relevant is the med services if we are to put together the aspect of Idrisi work. And from my friend, the journalist, I'm sorry to tell you the truth from Uganda. I've been around in the media for some time. Like science, communication is also a science. And I'm sorry to say that we are not skilled to communicate your science until you break it down to our language. So you tend to speak your language, and the journalists are also speaking their language. And in the end, we are not speaking the same language, and that is being translated down to the communities. I can tell you the truth is that the journalists we have on the ground cannot communicate science. And that is why, if I were you, maybe I'll look at how the communication aspect has worked over the years. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. One last gentleman from the other end.
Firstly, I want to thank the panelists for the information given, and I would like to say thank you for the opportunity firstly. My name is Mohammed Ismail, an Ethiopian student and a content creator as well in the country of Ethiopia. And I have a point that I want to start from so that it justifies and gives context about my question. I would like to start from the point mentioned earlier by the panelists that resilience is not a response but a way of life. If I'm not mistaken, if I heard correctly, I believe this will only be true if the youth are actually involved. And therefore, the youth in Africa are the main part of its development and growth. Generations teach generations, and right now as youth, we are mostly observing theoretically, learning but not participating. We're just learning theoretically, but we're not participating, implementing, or finding the right adopters to our points. Young people influence their peers. I influence the ones that are in my age. And if us as youth are not included, then, or if we're not given a chance or even taken seriously as content creators, this could become a liability for Africa and African youth, making us more vulnerable as Africans, and we don't want that for our nations and continent. Therefore, my first question to the panelists will be, given that East African countries are mostly youth-based and Ethiopia's national development policies increasingly focus on youth empowerment, what are Idrisi's plan to directly engage and empower the youth and ensure that we have a legacy for the generation after us to follow? My second question is for the respected gentleman, Mr. Zalalam from Pulse of Africa. Since you are a respected professional in the field of journalism, I would like to ask you, as a content creator, as content creators, we can amplify initiative, reach our peers, and create practical impact. What are Idrisi's plans to actively collaborate with youth content creators like us to promote and support your project instead of us just observing from the sidelines and being just part that listen and does not implement anything? And after this, I would like to thank you again for giving me the opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Your name and where you come from?
My name is Mohammed Ismail. I am a freshman student in the New Generation University, and I'm also a content creator as well.
Thank you. The gentleman over here, can you repeat your question? Just briefly.
Yes, thank you very much. So, yeah, my name is Ledama Maseta from Kenya, CNN Academy, but also founder of the Local and Indigenous Food System Transformation Network. And my question was, what structures or how is Idrisi working to keep its country members accountable to action, but also to share scalable local solutions across the region?
Thank you. There's a request for a last question, and we will close the Q&A session.
Thank you, Austin. My name is Jamila Mohammed. I'm a journalist from Kenya. I'm one of the nominees. My question is to everyone on the panel. You mentioned that drought used to happen every 10 years, but now it's more regular. You talked about how rains are failing in some parts of this region. Yesterday, I watched a story about how drought is affecting people in Somalia, where they're being forced to flee their homes to come to Mogadishu and live in camps, and things are not any better. And I'm thinking in this day and age, with early warning and technology, why can't we do better in terms of predicting the weather patterns so we know the rains are going to fail, so we can start advising governments to take action earlier instead of seeing what we are seeing now, where people are struggling and having to leave their homes and move to the cities where it's not any better because cities are already congested. So what's the role of technology, early warnings, to try and alleviate the suffering that we're seeing that people are going through now in this day and age, where we can be able to predict these weather patterns? Thank you.
Thank you, Jamila. So I'll give our panelists a chance to respond to the questions. And the first question on structures in place for accountability, I'll give it to Dr. John Kabayo, stemming from his experience with this initiative.
Thank you very much for the question, and thank you, moderator. Indeed, Idrisi, one of its particular designs is actually accountability from the way it is designed. Every project that is implemented has an M&E protocol. All the stages of the project that's being implemented are followed and reported upon. This was after realization that many of the government projects were not monitored and followed and reported on and so on. We wanted Idrisi to start on a different page, and so that's it's incorporated in the system of Idrisi. Every project is monitored throughout. In fact, it has 3 different ways of monitoring. We monitor a project's mid-term, and then we assess its end, but all the project steps are monitored and reported on, so that part. Plus, we also have frequent meetings of the authorities, the owners of the project. For example, there is a steering committee which is at the level of permanent secretary or technicians, technical people at that level, which are regular at least 6 months, I think every 6 months. Then there is a General Assembly, which is ministerial, and even a summit. So the authorities are aware of what is going on, and the reporting structure and the format of reporting is aware. It keeps very strong emphasis on monitoring. So accountability is a central feature of the UC projects. I don't know whether that gets you, but we are assured there will be more. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. John Kabayo, for responding to that and being very brief. The other question was on technology. I'll bring up Jamila and my colleague from Uganda. Why is this technology, or rather climate information, not reaching Dr. Dereja?
Thank you, Austin, again. Let me touch a couple of questions that I have received on different areas, just to give my view as well as also the reality. On COP and COP participation, and then also Ethiopia hosting COP 32, what are we doing in short? And what have we done in the past? COP is a very complex arrangement, to tell you the fact, that the negotiations are by states. You can have your side event and talk about what you are doing, but the main decision and the main context is within member state. IGAD has been doing before every COP, bringing together the COP focal ministries to discuss the regional issues so that they will reflect as a region some kind of position. I hope ICPAC people should have been here, should have elaborated on this, but I knew in the past that's how it is happening. At least we have some kind of our voice from this region, because IGAD is pre-preparing. If you go to COP, disintegrated country by country, we will not have even the same position and either to support or oppose some of the views that affect you. There is an attempt at that level, and looking forward also Turkey, and especially the opportunity in Ethiopia, here at home, to demonstrate what we have done, as well as also, show that how we have been affected and what is needed. There are other COPs also. COPs are different. There is one on UNCCD now, very much focusing on drought resilience. At IGAD, we wanted to also voice the concern of this region, but also share what we have done on drought resilience in the past 10 years and where we wanted to be and what kind of support we want. At least we have that mechanism, just to give you an example. There's a question of, there's a technically there are solutions, but it's not reaching where it has to be. It's as complex as it is. Our information is fragmented, everybody is acting. We live in that, but we are continuously fine-tuning. For many years, we have been creating information and leave it on the website. And the millions, they don't know even the website, whether the website is existing. We are trying to reach by media. And the science of climate itself, it's a likelihood. You will tell that the climate will look like this with likelihood. So the science itself is really the one which you have to closely watch. The information you released about what will happen in the coming 2 months, you need to closely monitor and provide that information as you close to the region. We are, as human beings, we are so good to tell about the story of the past. This was how the climate looked like, today it looked like this. It's so easy. The most difficult part for us is looking forward. And it's a science you will understand for me. As we said, climate information, we cannot say that. We need to keep refining, keep looking, what are the changes that come in, and that information really rich. And that's one of the challenge areas that I wanted to share. With regard to use, a very valid concern, a huge population. Everybody wants the use to be part of the business. It's not only destructive, but also constructive. at Idrisi level, Ato Jamal will attest that at ground level, there are social focus, interventions that to support youth, interventions to support women, and so and so. But we want also use much more than that, give their voice. It is highly affecting than me, because I have done half of my life. And they have to be part of the dialogue in all level. And I wish that is the thing that we have to take from this discussion. You know, it's the right thing. It's not like, you know, youth has to be beneficiary. No, they have to be part of the conversation. They have to be part of the solution. They have to also play their part. Everybody has to take note of it. The accountability of the countries, Dr. Caballo has mentioned accountability as its accountability. We really work at different levels with different entities. Accountability is largely at the national level. What we create is peer pressure. And you understand also, out of the 8 countries or 7 countries in this region, you cannot talk about serious development when security is in question. And you can imagine the amount of resources that goes to that direction in countries like Somalia. The preparedness, the level of investment cannot match what others can do. But stable countries, we should really keep talking about. Drought is with us. We should always work towards building, absorbing capacity, and national budget allocation should be scrutinized. How much is going to prepare us? Have we done sufficient? Because accountability is at a national level. At Parliament, there is so much so you can do as a regional entity. Accountability is the society, accountability is the Parliament, accountability is all across. So we play our part, but the biggest accountability is at the national level. The challenge we have, countries like Sudan, South Sudan, countries like Somalia, the levels of investment on drought resilience is not that level, because you will understand why. And you see countries like Kenya, they have done best. Uganda, if you take northern Kenya, I've been part of it. They have transformed in terms of infrastructure. Response will be easier. They have invested in water infrastructure. You will not see that level of investment in the countries that I've mentioned. So yeah, that's an example of Somalia as it current. That's a reflection. You cannot outsource development to other parties. It's only government and the society. When they are at the center, change will come. Yes, we have been getting international support. Not at all. It's the government, the people have to be in business, and they couldn't be in that business because of a lot of destructive. A failed state now is grappling to have a substantial governance system in place, and that has affected. And at any time, we will be highly vulnerable in Somalia compared to other countries because of that context. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dereje. A round of applause to our panelists. There are 2 questions, and when I was going through the agenda, I realized those questions will be better responded to in the next panel session, which will be led by IGPAC, and the panel session title will be Youth, Media, and Climate Action, Communicating Early Warning Information in the IGAD region. So be sure to be here on time. We'll start at exactly 2:10. We'll start at exactly 2:10. So my colleague from Ethiopia and Jamila and my colleague from Uganda, let's be here early enough to listen to what IGPAC has to say in terms of climate information dissemination. Thank you very much. Bon appetit.